Let's talk about rewards. So rewards are also a key piece of DePIN ecosystem. And there's a couple different ways to do rewards. So do you do an arbitrary number of rewards? That is a traditional way to do it. And so what usually happens is there's a fixed amount of rewards distributed every period, whether it's every day, every hour, every week, every month. And those are divided between all of the participants. And usually that's subject to some type of decline where the early providers receive the most rewards and later providers receive fewer. That makes a great deal of sense because the early providers are the ones that are helping bootstrap the network in the beginning. And so giving them more tokens gives them more stake in the network, so to speak, and more reward as the network scales and ultimately successful. That's, I think, the general method of how they're developed. But there's a very big range into how these rewards are actually distributed. And so, for example, Glow gives the same number of rewards every single year, regardless of network scale. Helium drops rewards every 2 years. GeoNet also declines every 2 years, and projects usually have some level of decline. Filecoin has declined every couple of years, but it's subject to benchmarks in terms of how fast storage is growing, which can release more. So there's a number of very kind of nuanced ways in which the rewards can be distributed. Grass, a very successful project in the space that's launched just last year, uses points, and then rewards are airdrop based on the number of points that you develop or that you earn over time. And the real question, I think, that is the main distinction here is, are rewards distributed equally to all participants, or are they weighted towards participants that have certain types of activity? And so digital and cloud DePINs are generally in the camp of rewarding all participants equally because they're generally participating with the same level of hardware. If you're giving a CPU or a GPU, pretty easy, and there's not much distinction between them, obviously based on hardware characteristics. And so generally providers that offer the same hardware are rewarded the same. That certainly makes sense. But with regard to physical DePINs, that's more complex because those networks are generally about collecting data in different areas. And so they're generally try to reward participants who are adding value to the network in certain areas. And so networks like Hive Mapper, which is a network that basically has dash cams in cars, will incent participants in certain areas more where there's a particular demand for that data. And certain projects as well will reward in some markets where they're trying to grow or where they need data, but not other markets where they actually don't need information, don't need data, or they're not at scale. And so I think the big distinction here is, how are you going to reward? Who are you going to reward? And so what does that then imply for the participation you have for your users? And what does it imply for the token generation and the token distribution among your participants? Some people use a lottery system where because they can't reward everybody because the value would be too small, so they run contests to keep people engaged. So there's a number of different models here to try to basically distribute the value of these tokens across a large number of participants in the most effective way that keeps people interested in engaging and providing that data.